App is designed for people that collect rent. It stores tenant information and pay history. It allows a user/collector to make phone calls and texts to the user's tenants. When initially signing in, I require a user to register a name and a valid email address. That information is stored in a database. The password is not stored. Instead, I get a token for a user using Firebase authentication. So you log on that Java file to see the code. The privacy button explains this. Most of the interaction with the database is performed through the background worker.java file. All connections to the database are made in the same manner using an HTTPS connection. To accomplish this, I use Java's open connection method of the URLs class and get input stream method of the socket class. So I've created an account here to test the app. So I'll put my information in here. And the group identifier, it'll randomly select one. You can choose your own one if you so choose. Then I click register. So that's the number showing there is the random identifier that provided me at. Could use a separate one if you wanted. Let's see. Each user may have multiple group identifiers. This allows a user to have multiple accounts registered to one email. See the group selection.java file to see the code. After an email address has been verified and group identifier established, the user must input collector information by selecting group text info setup. So we sign in here. And at the bottom of the page, we have group text info setup. So select that. And then add update delete collector. So that's the first step. Must add a collector. The collector information is provided to the tenant on payment receipts. All information on this screen is stored in a database and not released to third-party vendors. The privacy button explains this to the user. Here's the privacy button in the bottom right corner. So the privacy button explains that. So I'm going to put me in here as the collector. I've got to put my phone number in here. The collection text is just a generic text. And then put add collector. Alright, so now we have a collector in the system. The user may now start entering addresses from which to collect rent by selecting group text info setup from the main screen here, so the bottom of the screen. And then you'll notice the add edit address button is now selectable. So we select that, and then details about the house can be input. This information is stored in a database. The privacy button explains this. So the privacy button down here at the bottom right says that I store this in a database and I do not share it with third parties. So I'm going to put an address in here. All the rest of this information is not required, except for the things that say they are required, which collector is. So I'll just leave all the other stuff blank. Rent amount is required. And any special notes you want to leave on the house. Let's see. All right, so now we can enter another one. I'm going to go ahead and enter another one here. Okay, so now we have 2 addresses that have been added. So I'm just going to use the back arrow to get back out to the main screen here. All right, so once an address is set up, the collector may enter tenant information by selecting tenant info. So we go up to the top of the screen here, select one of the addresses you just input. And now I can select tenant info. And then select new tenant. And then all this information is stored in the database. And the privacy button explains that. Stored in the database and used solely within this app, is not shared with third parties. So we'll select yes. We'll put, we'll go ahead and create a fake tenant here. I'll give him my phone number. Well, you can enter a primary and a secondary number. And you can have a secondary tenant as well down here on the bottom. We'll just do primary. Primary is the only thing that's necessary. You do need to have a rent amount that you'll be charging the tenant. We'll just say $500. And you have to select the daily late rate or else it will not let you submit. And we're going to say we're going to start the rent on today. So we hit submit, and we now have a tenant on 123 Test Street. Just for fun, let's add a tenant to 234 Test 2 Street. So it's tenant info, new tenant, and we'll put Sam Elliott. Give him my phone number too. Puts it in every field. All right, put a rent amount here, $600, daily rate, we'll just say $3 a day. And we'll put their start date on the 1st of March, and we hit submit. So now we have a tenant in each of the homes. Let's see, make sure. After tenant information is entered, the collector/user may select tenant info from the main screen to call or text the tenant. So if I wanted to call the tenant 234 Test 2, this may not work because I put my own personal number in here, but I would select call, and then it would take me to the default call application. I hope it doesn't crash. Oh yeah, it's going to call my voicemail because I'm calling my own personal number. But if you had somebody else's number in here, it would have called that person. I can text myself, so it'll bring up my default text, and you see I've done other practice text to myself. And so I can just type in here, it goes to my default application, test, and send, and I just received my own text. Privacy policy here says calls in or text may be made on this screen. Data rates apply. Do you want to continue? And if you select no, it'll just kick you out of the screen. All right, let's see. All right, once the tenant has been set up, the app may now be used to record payments and issue receipts. For the main screen, select receipt. So this is the main screen, select receipt. Details about the tenant ranging from name, address, rent to date, charges owed, and rent amount are detailed on the receipt screen. Once receipt screen is completed and submit button is selected, the user is taken to a print receipt screen. So we'll just say they're paying $900. We'll say $300 of that is deposit. Comeback date's not there yet because it'll come back once we hit submit here. So we submit, check for verify accuracy. And there it is. Now, so we can print the receipt via Bluetooth printer. We can email the receipt if we would have set up an email on the tenant information screen. Most all our tenants like the text method, so I would select text. But here we'll select the privacy method, so you see that I warn them that data rates will apply. If a different phone number is entered by the text button, it will become the primary number for the tenant. And I let the user know I do not share it with third parties. And so when we text, it just again goes back to your default text application. And it just says thank you for paying, the amount and all that stuff. And then it has has my number messed up down there. I'll have to correct that in the app. So I hit send, and there it is. Okay, so that's how payments work. And then we choose another address, takes us back to the main screen. Other buttons on the main activity do not pose a privacy risk. These buttons include applying tenant charges, viewing payment history, viewing previous tenants and their payment history, selecting whether or not the current tenant is in the process of being evicted, viewing and or changing the next collection date, and entering any notes the user may want to recall about the tenant. After multiple rent collecting accounts have been set up, the user may send group text to the user's tenants. This is accomplished by selecting group text info setup down here at the bottom of the screen. Then select multi-text, which is up here at the top. The user may enter a phrase like, will the rent be ready today? So let's see, I will just do rent ready, question mark. And then you can select which accounts you want to send the text to. So we'll say we want to send it to this house. The other house is not in yet because they've not paid yet. So you have to have a comeback date in order for to be on the group text. So then you send text, and then that text is sent to all those that were selected. Going back to multi-text, if you hit privacy, all the above accounts will be selected will receive the text at the top of the screen. And so I'll let the user know that. The Make Deposit button from the Group Text Info Setup screen allows the user to record deposits. It retrieves the date when rent was collected, the person that collected it, the address collected from, and the amount collected. The user may enter details about a draw if needed. So Make Deposit is right here, second one down from the top. This was the deposit we just, this is the money we just collected. If we want to make deposit, we just hit Make Deposit. And it records it here. The Report button allows users' accounts to be sorted by collection date, date last paid for, and amount owed by each account. So that's what these buttons are for. There's no information collected from this screen. Let's see. Add address and add update delete collector have already been discussed. The last button to evaluate is vacant homes. When selecting this button, read call log permission is used to retrieve the last 3 phone numbers that called the user. To get a vacant home, though, we will have to tell the app that the tenant we set up has moved. So we'll go back to this screen, go to tenant info, and then click Moved at the bottom right corner. Select the date that the tenant moved. We'll say it was today. And submit. And yes, we're sure we want to keep the rent amount at $600, so we will submit that. Now, whenever I go back to Group Text Info Setup, I now have a vacant home. So I can select vacant homes at the bottom. And there's my vacant house. And so you can make it inactive so it won't send the text out. But you'll notice the last 3 phone numbers that have called me are on the screen. The reason I collect this is so it's easy for the user to text the last number that called them, because oftentimes the person will call and say, hey, can you send us your list of vacant homes? Well, then we just go into this app, select all the homes we want to send them, and select text. So, and again, this would just text using the same default app of the user. Let's see, the privacy button. Let me make sure it show that up there at the top right corner. It says call log and search to display previously received calls. This feature allows vacancy list to easily be sent to a recent caller. So those numbers are not stored in the database. Thank you for taking the time to review my app. Please let me know if there are any infractions that need to be resolved.